Join us as we track the development of children from birth to the school gate. The journey from naught to 5. The stage from crawling to walking is usually somewhere between 6 to 18 months. Before they learn to crawl, babies will scoot, they might rock on all fours, and they often move backwards before moving forwards. Baby is on the move. In this program, we meet 2 competent crawlers, 10-month-old Alex and 13-month-old Madeline. And this is Jo, who'll be talking to both their families. Babies on the move don't waste a moment of their waking time. Coffee tables are used to pull up on, and stairs for clambering up and coming back down safely. Be prepared for mess as your child tips out the pegs, bangs on the pots, tumbles over towers. This is a time of great learning, of trial and error, as they figure out what will happen if I drop this or push this, and what does this taste like?
Where's Declan?
Boo.
They enjoy playing peekaboo, and they love you talking and reading to them.
Bee.
Meet our first family. This is Steve, a registered nurse who now does IT at Auckland City Hospital. Catherine, also a nurse, works 3 days a week at the same hospital. Older brother Ben, who's 2.5, and Alex, who's 10 months old. He's our baby on the move. Catherine and Steve worry that Alex is missing out because he's number 2 and doesn't get the full attention of his parents.
Ben is so sort of in your face and demanding your time all the time.
Right.
And giving one-on-one time with Alex can sometimes be difficult, yeah.
Right.
We think that we need to replicate the first recipe of having the first child, and yet it's not something that can be achieved. And I think we can beat ourselves up by trying to mirror that rather than go, this is what it's like, and this is what it's like for the next child and perhaps the next child, because they don't suffer. They have an older sibling that they learn amazing things from, which we might think are not always good things, but there's pros and cons with each place in the family.
Children of different ages do learn different things from the same activity, however.
I'm wondering about, say, bubble blowing. You know, if you blow bubbles, which children love, how would they be handling that differently?
Alex is now in awe of it, and he'll sit there and watch them in amazement. Yeah, Ben will run after them.
Of course.
So, but Alex has just suddenly started noticing those. And if we do play with the ball outside, one of us will lay down on the grass with Alex and the other one will be throwing the ball at Ben because he likes to have the ball thrown at him to try and hit him. And every now and then you just throw it Alex's way and he thinks this is fun to try and get it, and then it comes back and you just keep taking it in turns, interacting with them with the ball in the different ways that they can get it. Ben trying to catch and Ben and Alex having it rolled to him.
Up there.
A really neat thing to do with children is, you know, obstacle courses on the carpet. You know, set up your bean bags and your pillows, and that's developmentally appropriate for both boys.
Here you go.
Notice how Alex watches Ben go through and learns from him.
You can be just spending a little bit of extra time with Alex assisting him through that, whereas Ben doesn't need any help at all.
Well done, Alex.
One of the techniques that gets used by some parents is having a little jar and putting whatever it is you want to put in the jar, whether it be pebbles, paper clips, stones, for each child in terms of the attention you think that you're giving them. And you might be surprised to find that the balance is not as way out as you think it might be.
Catherine and Steve also worry about Ben behaving badly towards Alex, who, now that he's crawling, always wants to join in on Ben's play.
We make a point of saying to Alex, no, or please don't touch that, or you're not allowed to do that. We try and discipline Alex as well when they're playing together so that Ben realises that we are disciplining Alex as well as him, so it's not always his fault for everything.
That's really great discipline. That's guiding their behaviour.
And guiding or discipline is a different concept from punishment.
You don't hit people.
I completely get that you actually don't punish your children. I think that would be the absolute last thing that you do.
We do punish our children.
Really?
Well, give them time.
And yet I'm not sure what we understand as punishment.
Yeah.
Punishment, I believe, is something that harms children, and discipline is something that enhances children, and that's the essence of discipline. When you're teaching them something with mutual respect and they're going to have a positive learning outcome from it, it's not punishing them.
Blue. Garrett, you do some more?
Yeah.
And teach Ben to be able to say to Alex, here, you can play with this. And noticing the stuff that Ben is doing really gently, which I'm sure that you are doing, you know, great gentle hands, Ben. What great...
Lots of positive praise
Yeah,
goes on.
yeah, neat.
The boys go happily to daycare 3 times a week, but in the last couple of weeks, Alex has started to become anxious when Steve leaves.
Usually we go in there, I hand the bag over and I tell him if there's anything in particular about Alex, about that morning.
Right.
And then literally just hand them to him, I say goodbye and I give him a kiss and I'm out.
Great.
And so and usually takes about 30 seconds.
Yeah. That's a really honouring way of doing it. It's not prolonging his grief, and yet it's being really real to him, saying, yeah, I'm leaving now, goodbye. And he gets to see you leaving, which is really important. And then he gets a chance to make a transition into the environment and the situation where he's at, knowing that you've left, and then seeing you return. What a caring brother.
Routine is an important part of this family's life. Dinner is always at 5 to 5:30, followed by a bath.
Alex gets out of the bath and inevitably gets annoyed because we haven't given him his drink quick enough. He knows that his drink's coming next.
So he can anticipate the next part of his day.
Yeah.
How wonderful.
Yeah, which is lovely, and we find that he goes to bed very easily. Ben goes to bed very nicely now. We have no problems with bedtimes. It's taken 2 years to establish all of that with Ben and know where we're at with him. And I think that makes it easier with Alex because we recognise the signs.
Parenting preschoolers is a tough job, but the joys usually outweigh the hardships.
When you come home from work and they
Yeah, it's when they come home from daycare and I'll be here and Ben will come running through the whole house just to give you a big hug. Or Steve comes home from work cycling and Ben just gets absolutely
beside himself.
Yeah, beside himself with happiness because Daddy's come home and he's just absolutely loud and in your face, and he's out the door and he wants to play on the bike and he's into big hugs and everything, and every day they do something cute.
And the emotion that you have for your children and the connectedness you obviously have as a couple makes this home and this family a really happy one, and it shows amazing respect for everybody concerned in the family. I think it was Albert Einstein that said, respect is not one thing, it's the only thing.
Painted and decorated, or just covered in pretty paper, this will quickly become a special toy. Cut a hole in the top of a box filled with differently textured objects for your child to put his hand into. Ask him to find you something specific.
Do you want to find me something scratchy in the box?
Wow, what's that, Harley? That's shiny, isn't it?
Is it stretchy as well, Harley?
The texture box develops fine motor skills as well as language. And most importantly, it's special time spent together.
Now that I'm on the move, can you please put away or hide things that you don't want me to play with? Everything looks interesting to me, and I can't tell what's precious or unsafe. I don't understand if you get angry when I play with an ornament or a PowerPoint.
Meet Michael, who's a mortgage broker, and Helen, who is a travel consultant. Both born in Beijing, China, they've lived in New Zealand now for 10 years. They work from home, which is ideal for their one daughter, Madeline, who's 13 months old.
Yeah, she's a pretty girl, and she's very happy every day.
You can see that.
Yeah, she's a really happy girl, and she doesn't like cry.
But there are eating and sleeping issues for Helen and Michael, which they feel might stem from their culture.
I feel the Chinese people always worry about the baby get enough food, more energy is quite important. But the Kiwi friend will know. They say, yeah, maybe get her hungry and she will eat a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Helen and Michael give Madeline 3 meals a day. Toast for breakfast, then rice, meat and veggies for lunch and dinner.
And how much of that would she eat, roughly?
Not too much.
And very high.
I feel just like 6 to 10 spoons. Like
And
just
she's giving you a big clue there, hey? I don't want to eat much. I have a tiny little stomach. And babies and children, you look at the size of their hand, and the palm of their hand cubed is about as much as they need to eat at any one time.
Oh, okay.
So it's only a really little amount of food.
Children need to eat more than 3 times a day. Finger food is great for this age because it uses fine motor skills, and children can exercise choice. This is all part of gaining mastery and control, which is a crucial stage in a child's development.
And she'll let you know when she's finished because it'll all be on the floor. So it's about making her an active participant rather than a passive recipient. Be looking for the clues. When is she hungry? When is she telling you, I'm hungry now, as opposed to you going, I think she's hungry, I'm going to feed her. And then she's getting enough inside of her tummy and it's full often enough. And you might even find that that changes her sleep patterns a little bit too if she's got the right amount of food in her tummy. And I'm wondering if you can tell me about how she sleeps.
Oh, it's terrible.
She shakes her head.
she always in my arm. Yeah, and once I take my arms away, and she will wakes up and cry, just a little cry, and I have to pet her and put in my arm again, and her hand will just around my neck, you know.
Traditionally, many Chinese parents don't like to let their child cry. And as a newborn, Madeline didn't test them, as she slept happily on her own. But she was upset by her first set of vaccinations and learned to only go to sleep with her mother.
It's not good for her. It's not good for Helen.
There's lots of great news here.
Good.
The good news is that she's capable of sleeping for 12 hours a night. The good news is that she's able to have enough food in her tummy throughout the day to get her right through the night. So she doesn't need to be waking at this age through the night to feed.
And look how Madeline knows which one of Michael's hands the ball is in, even though she can't see it. That means she's quite capable of sleeping in her own bedroom because she can understand her parents will be just next door.
There's many sleep techniques, but there's one really gentle one called non-invasive sleep technique, and it simply means that you're close to your child. So you would have her in the room that you wanted to be sleeping in, and you would sleep in a different bed but close to her.
Yeah.
And then when she needs to, you comfort her.
Yeah.
And then when she's just doing that, as you said, that's an okay sound, hey? And if you don't meet that, she realises that that doesn't need to be met.
If a child doesn't settle happily, gently stroke them or jiggle the cot until they nod off. Gradually, the amount of times you'll have to do this will lessen. Madeline goes to sleep at 8:30 with Helen, but Jo says she would fall asleep more easily at least an hour earlier.
When she becomes tired, and you notice her doing this, and she's already too tired by then,
Oh, okay.
and that makes it really hard for her to get herself to sleep. Teaching her to go to sleep with noise is really useful, as opposed to teaching her to go to sleep in silence, because she can hear your voices. You might want to make a little tape or a CD of your voices talking to her in a very gentle way, in a way that's going to assist her ability to relax and calm down, to give her a sense of you being there without actually being there. Like maybe having some of your clothing on her, tucked nice and safely around her cot, so that she can smell you, so she can hear you and Michael, and she can smell you, and you don't actually have to have that contact. And the big thing is that you need to trust yourselves that you can let her do this. because it's going to be probably a bit tougher for you than actually it is for her.
Yeah.
Another issue they face is decisions on how to discipline.
In China, from my age, when I was young, the boy normally is naughty, and so my parents, my father will punish me, and it's normal. All my friends, my classmates, especially the boys, even the girls, can be punished.
Helen and Michael have made a new life in New Zealand and don't think physical punishment works.
It seems that what we teach our children when we use that kind of parenting technique is that this is how you gain power. This is how you control a situation. When I get frustrated, when I get cross, I do this, however lightly. And what does it actually teach? Well, I wonder whether it teaches that this is what you do when you're similarly frustrated or annoyed.
There are many alternatives to physical punishment.
At 13 months on, she's able to know that some of the things she's doing are not okay and that there are consequences for that. And consequences are a really great thing because there are things that we impose which are called logical consequences. So, Madeline, if you do this, this will happen, or your toy will go away, or whatever. And then there's natural consequences, which is simply things that happen without us having to intervene in any way. So if you don't eat your dinner, you're going to be hungry. That's a natural consequence. You seem so in tune and in sync with Madeline as parents, and I feel really privileged to hear your story as a family and how you're doing things and how you want to do something slightly differently to make it easier for all of you. And I really commend you on that.
Active movement, making the connection between movement and learning to develop the whole child. It's really great for your child to crawl as long a time as possible because there are so many benefits.
First of all, when I'm crawling around the floor, I'm developing my upper body strength, which is very important. I need to develop my gross motor skills, which are my large motor skills, before I develop my fine motor skills, which is important for writing later on. I'm also crawling around the floor and I'm picking up the fluff and the blowflies, so I'm using that pincer grip, which helps to hold the pencil. I learn about spatial awareness between over, under, height perception, and also independence because I'm making my own play rather than having play initiated for me. What he's also doing is developing his eyes because his eyes are changing focal length all the time. But one of the most important things that babies do when they crawl, or with children when they cross-pattern, is in the corpus callosum between the two hemispheres of the brain, you have many what we call synapses or communicative links that help pass information between the two hemispheres of the brain. And those grow and develop when we cross-pattern. So most babies will crawl for about 400 hours before they walk. That doesn't mean you need to time them. What it does mean is that make sure they have plenty of time to spend on the floor.
Even though he's beginning to walk and he's getting to that phase, how can I keep it going so he's still doing some cross-patterning if he gives up the crawling?
Put the chairs that go around the table, cover with a blanket, and that you can play chasing games through the chairs. Get a cardboard box from the fridge people, all those kinds of things. Go to the park, climb the steps, climb the ladders. Wherever you can find opportunity to use that opposite arm, opposite leg movement, do so. Yeah.
I've noticed that when he's outside, he does a different style of crawling to how he does inside. He's more on his feet outside. He doesn't put his knees down.
That's because he's not used to different textures, and it's actually really important. You're doing the right thing by taking his pants off so he can feel the different textures that he's crawling on, because I need to not always know that, well, I'm not always going to be crawling on carpet. I need to feel what it's like to be crawling on prickly stuff and bumpy stuff and wet stuff, and you need to actually talk about, oh, that's a bit wet, and oh, that's gooey and that's messy, so that he learns that they have different textures. And when he's feeling it and he's hearing it, he's able to learn those kinds of concepts.
This is all a bit new to Alex, and he's not keen at all to learn to climb down the stairs.
Okay, Alex, we're going to go down the stairs. Are you ready? Here we go. We're going to go down the stairs. Bring your hands down. Now we're going to bring your leg down, and we're going backwards, aren't we? We're going backwards down the stairs. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Down backwards. Good
boy! Good boy, you were backwards. You did backwards. You can go up now. You ready to go up? Here we go. Lift your leg up. Here we go, lift up. That's a boy. Up you go the stairs. Well done.
Make sure that the stairs are a place where they can learn, because they learn about height perception, they learn about crawling backwards. All those kinds of concepts are very important, and I do need to learn those kinds of things to be safe.
Now, what about jolly jumpers and exercises? Are they good for our children?
The latest developmental thinking is that children should actually put themselves into this position when they are physically ready. In other words, when their muscle tone is able to support them in this position. Yeah. So therefore putting kids in jolly jumpers, in walkers, in exercises when they're little is probably not the best thing to do, because you find that the baby stoops, they actually have quite poor muscle tone and can't support themselves in this position. I will also add that we'd really rather that they didn't go in those things at all, because what that's doing is taking valuable time where they should be on the floor away from them. The floor should be the child's gymnasium. At this age, it's really important to not try and promote a child to be right or left-handed. What we try and encourage mums and dads to do with their children is to offer children things on the midline. Sometimes if you try and make a child right-handed and they're going to be left, it can cause confusion in the brain, and sometimes that leads to processing problems and maybe later on learning problems. I'm not saying that it does, but there is certainly that possibility. When you're offering your child something, hand it to the child on the midline. Now, what a child of Alex's age will do is reach out with both hands to grab it. What that tells us is that he hasn't decided which hand he's going to be, even though he may be favouring his right hand as the one that he looks like he might be. He still hasn't decided which hand he's going to end up writing with.
So what's Catherine's reaction to all this information?
Yeah, just generally looking at things in a different light and looking at the opportunities for the climbing and the crawling and the going under and over, and promoting what I say to them more.
Sure. I think that's a really key point, the language thing, that alongside the experience needs to come the language, and it's that specific language of direction and body, because that's how I learn, through experience and doing.
Yeah.